Hello, loves. Let's make a steak cake. You see what I did there? That's not my real laugh, by the way. I call that my Karen laugh. But anywho, so I already shaped out the cake and covered it in buttercream. And now I rolled out a big piece of white fondant because I'm going to be airbrushing this. Airbrushing would be the best technique for this because you really want to get those realistic colors. So after I laid it out flat, I went ahead and I kind of tucked in the fondant underneath so that it doesn't look like it's stuck to the board, but there is a little bit of depth to it, if that kind of makes sense. Putting the extra scrap of fondant on the side, and now I'm going to work on the details. This is a T-bone steak. Later on, I realized it was kind of too much in the shape of a heart, so I fixed that by taking out a scoop from the side. But for now, let me just tell you what I'm doing. I am sharpening those edges, kind of pinching them together, and now I'm using this mold to create some textures also onto the cake, or I should say the fondant. So this is going to be a grilled piece of steak, and I'm adding on those grill lines that I will airbrush later on. Now onto the airbrushing part. This is the fun part. I can't really mess up with this unless I just airbrush too much of one color, because really each steak is different. And even if I mess up a little bit, I can blot it off with a damp paper towel, since again, there's so much color to a piece of steak. That's the great thing about working with food. There's so much different variety to it that you can't really mess it up too much. So I added some brown and then some red, and now I'm adding some black for the charcoaled effect. I'm kind of just placing it sporadically where I think it'll have a more burned mark and whatnot. And now I'm adding the burned lines as well very carefully. You don't want to overspray. If you noticed, I put the steak cake on a wooden cutting board. This is a new one that I purchased, just to give it that extra effect of realism. And this is something the customers can keep, of course. Here is the final product. I made a little butcher knife out of fondant on the side. I also added some sprinkles that I colored in black dye to make it look like black pepper as well as salt. I even wanted to make it look like there was a lot of juice coming out of the steak. I wanted to make it a juicy steak cake. So that juice that you see is actually honey that I drizzled throughout the cake to give it that shiny effect. Hope you love it.